When you go to law school, as I have, when you practice law, as I have, one of the things you learn is never ask a witness a question you don't already know the answer to. So I know most of you listening, you didn't go to law school, you're not lawyers. Let me just explain this real quick. When you file a lawsuit, you go through a process that's called discovery. Now, I'm talking civil, but the same largely applies in criminal in that the prosecutors have to hand the defendants everything, and the defendants don't have to hand the prosecution really anything because the defendant gets every benefit of the doubt. But in the process of discovery, you get to ask questions, you get to do depositions, you get to probe what the person's going to say. You get to do that in a criminal trial as well. In a criminal trial, the defendants get to figure out what are the prosecution's witnesses going to say. So you go in and you're asking questions and you already know the answer. It's a little different from a civil trial to a criminal trial, but you're going to know what the evidence is, how it's going to be framed, what the witnesses are going to say, and both sides are trying to tell a jury the story. And whoever story sounds the most truthful is probably going to be the person to win. You don't go in blind with a witness. But there's a corollary here in politics, too. In politics, you never attempt to put a candidate in a situation that you lose control of the situation. You always want to control the situation with the candidate. The Democrats put Donald Trump, the candidate, in a situation the Democrats lost control of. The Democrats decided to engage Trump on all fronts, including the legal front, to try to stop him from winning re-election. And they have lost control. In Georgia, Donald Trump's appeal on tossing Fani Willis has been accepted by the Georgia Court of Appeals. They're going to hear the case. That puts a stop to Fani Willis's trial probably for all of this year. In Florida, the judge down there in the classified documents case has indefinitely paused the case. In Washington, Jack Smith's January 6th case against Trump, the Supreme Court hasn't rendered the decision on Donald Trump's immunity appeal, which, if so, is probably going to get passed back to the Court of Appeals or the district court to be reheard on various ways and make its way to an appeal again. The Democrats have lost control of the thing, and they're screaming about it. And here's a key point here you need to understand. If you notice Democratic rhetoric, the system is only legitimate if the system benefits them. Notice you're not hearing any complaints about the illegitimacy of the United States Senate right now because it benefits the Democrats. But if the Republicans get control of it, you're going to hear the Democrats again complain that the Senate is anti-democratic, that how is it fair that the state of North Dakota has the same number of senators as California? Look at the population. The system works to the Democrats' benefit. The system is legitimate. The moment it stops working to their benefit, it's illegitimate. Look at the Supreme Court and the case with Donald Trump and immunity. They're doing everything the Democrats asked them to do, but not fast enough, so suddenly they're illegitimate. Judge Cannon in Florida is giving the defense the benefit of the doubt every step of the way, which is what she's supposed to do, and that has made the system illegitimate. That's made the judge corrupt. In Georgia, Fani Willis screwed up everything. The Democrats have given her a pass, and now the Court of Appeals has decided to hear Donald Trump's appeal on whether or not the judge was right to keep her on the case. And suddenly the Court of Appeals in Georgia is stacked with a bunch of Republican hacks, and therefore the system is illegitimate. The system only works and is legitimate when it works for the left. That's what they do. They tear down any institution that isn't legitimate. Now, by the way, there's a corollary here. There's a growing number of people on the right who insist we are post-constitutional. The Constitution doesn't work. The Constitution doesn't apply. We should let the system burn. This is the Constitution working. These are the constitutional guarantees for defendants working. This is the constitutional processes working. They've lost control of it. And yesterday, in a New York courtroom, they lost control of Stormy Daniels, their star witness besides Michael Cohen. It didn't go well. You want to know how badly it went? Listen to Eli Honig on CNN.
My impression was she was plausible on her explanation of what happened in that hotel room. It's hard for me to believe that a juror heard that and thought, this is entirely made up. There may well be some embellishments with Arthur, I think, pointed out effectively in the last hour, but I think it's quite clear they had sex in 2006 in that hotel room. But the cross-exam, boy, her responses were disastrous. I mean, do you hate Donald Trump? Yes, of course she does. That's a big deal. When the witness hates the person whose liberty is at stake, that's a big damn deal. And she's putting out tweets, fantasizing about him being in jail. That really undermines the credibility. The fact that she owes him $500,000, she, by order of a court, owes Donald Trump $500,000 and said, I will never pay him. I will defy a court order. The defense is going to say she's willing to defy a court order. Why? She's not willing to respect an order of a judge. Why is she going to respect this oath she took? So I thought it went quite poorly on cross-exam. At the end of the direct, I thought, okay, they got what they needed, but I think the cross is making real inroads.
But wait, it's not just him. This is Paula Reed, also on CNN.
That she has said she will never pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars that she owes him. They've effectively undercut her credibility by getting her to talk about conversations she had, that impeaching her with her own book. I mean, this has been devastating for Stormy Daniels' credibility. Now, big picture, what does that mean for the case as a whole? Yeah. Well, maybe not much, because she doesn't have any direct evidence of the falsifying business records. What she could explain today is what exactly Trump was trying to hide between the Access Hollywood tape and Election Day in 2016. This illicit sexual encounter with a porn star back, over a decade prior. She was able to explain to the jury that and how she got paid. But I think what we should really take away from today is this is a preview of what Michael Cohen can look forward to. This kind of sort of devastating, eviscerating cross.
Yes. And Michael Cohen is now paid to hate Donald Trump. He fundraises off of his Trump hatred. They can't, once you get into a courtroom with a judge you can't control and a jury you can't control and witnesses you can't control, the Democrats have lost control of this. They've lost control of the case in Georgia. They've lost control of the case in Florida. These were all designed to get Donald Trump, and they insisted that these cases would move ahead on their timeline and their schedule to benefit them, and they were stupid for believing that, because that's not the way any of this works. And they just assume that because they are in charge, they could get their way. The Constitution is working. The legal system is working. And it's not working to the Democrats' favor, so look for them to delegitimize it as well. They're having a very, very bad time. And everybody's missing one thing. The prosecution is focused on the salacious details. They focused on dragging Donald Trump. I think that's actually the point of the case, is they're hoping that the public won't be able to stomach Donald Trump again if they show what a creepy person he is. Except people already saw the Access Hollywood tape, and only the most diehard Trump supporters have denied he was cheating on his wife with a porn star. Most people accept that it was true, and they still voted for him. Do you really think rubbing people's nose in it now is going to change things? But here, this is the thing. The prosecution has dragged all of this stuff out, all the salaciousness. They've had Stormy Daniels on, whose credibility she undermined herself on cross-examination. And everybody's missed one thing. They've got to show an intent to commit the underlying campaign finance violation. They've got to show an intent to commit the crime. They haven't done that. They've tried to hint about it. They've tried to tie it to campaign season. The judge is denying a expert witness for Donald Trump, but he's going to eventually, either it's going to get tossed on appeal or they're going to have to let him have somebody in the case make the point that the rule for campaign finance is the transaction would not have occurred but for the campaign. But I guarantee you what we're going to see is a conversation about Donald Trump's prenuptial agreement with Melania Trump. We're going to see that. That's going to come out. And there is the reasonable doubt. Is this really to cover up a campaign finance violation, or is this to stop a very expensive divorce from happening? That's enough doubt. Stormy Daniels' intent is enough doubt. Michael Cohen's credibility is going to be on the stand as well. And Michael Cohen's not as smart as he thinks he is. The Democrats decided to engage in lawfare to stop Donald Trump. Through any means possible, they were going to stop Donald Trump, and they've lost control of all of it. And we haven't even got to the jury yet. One member of this jury could hang the jury. One member. It was always dumb for the Democrats to do this. They could have mounted an effective case against Donald Trump. They could have, but you know what's happened now in the CBS poll, the CNN poll, the Fox News poll, the ABC poll, the NBC poll, you name it, the Marist poll, the Emerson poll. More people now believe Donald Trump's term in office was a success. In fact, in most, not all, but in most of the polls, a majority of voting Americans believe Donald Trump's tenure in office was a success. That is a vast departure from what they thought at the time, and that's all because they're judging it in comparison to Joe Biden's time in office. And the Democrats haven't tried to counter that message. The Democrats haven't tried to change that message. The Democrats have tried to throw Donald Trump in jail to beat him. A majority of Americans believe that the Democrats are engaged in lawfare to stop Donald Trump. Even as a plurality of Americans are convinced he did something wrong, a majority of Americans, including those people, are convinced this is all to stop Donald Trump because they can't beat him at the ballot box, and it's not going the way the Democrats in their head thought it would because they're in a bubble. They're in the I hate Donald Trump so much everybody else must as well bubble. And there are a lot of people who do hate Donald Trump, but they're going to vote for him because they hate Joe Biden more. I've said more than once. In fact, I've been on radio now for 12 years, and I've said this several times every year that I've been on radio. When I ran campaigns for a living, I would always tell the candidates who wanted to stake out a firm position on something, know when you're in the minority, even when you think you're right. You've got to have that level of awareness to understand most people might disagree with you on something. So how you proceed and how you conduct yourself when you advance an issue most people are going to disagree with you on matters. The Democrats have deluded themselves into thinking they're the majority on this. They think they're in the majority. They're not. They hate Trump so much they can't conceive of anyone else voting for him. And as these cases begin to implode around them, it takes a significant strategy of theirs off the table. They never thought they would have to advocate for Joe Biden's pitiful record. They just thought they could throw Donald Trump in jail, and he's probably not going.